Hey everybody, I'm Zach.
And I'm Jesse.
And you're watching Tesla Time News.
Episode 231.
On Now You Know.
We're brought to you, as always, by our amazing Patreon patrons. They help support creating independent news every week. So if you want to help, you can head over to patreon.com/nowyouknow, and there you'll find some awesome perks for your trouble.
And we're sponsored by BigBattery.com with the best battery prices in the USA, guaranteed. If you've got something you need to power, from homes to cars, RVs to boats, and much more, BigBattery.com has you covered, offering the newest battery tech. Use the code NOWYOUKNOW to save 5% off your purchase today at BigBattery.com. So I got this email from Tesla. It says, Tesla has decided to voluntarily recall certain Model S and Model X vehicles built before March 2018 that are equipped with an 8GB embedded multimedia card in the media control unit because the eMMC may malfunction due to the accumulated wear. Yeah, so it seems that NHTSA's arm twisting has worked, and Tesla is now recalling over 100,000 older pre-2018 Model S and X's that are affected.
And also, Tesla pushed an over-the-air software update 2020.48.12. It says, if your vehicle is operating software releases 2020.48.12 or newer, and the eMMC malfunctions, then the rear-view backup camera will remain available, the exterior turn signal lighting will remain functional, and the windshield defogging and defrosting controls will automatically default to a preset cabin temperature to ensure windshield visibility. If your vehicle is operating software older than 2020.48.12 and the eMMC malfunctions, then you may lose these functionalities. So this is one of those things that Tesla did not handle very well, in my opinion. They really could have gotten out ahead of this. They didn't need to rely on NHTSA's arm twisting.
Yeah, it would have looked just so much better if they had just said, sorry, folks, here's the fix, and we're going to deal with this. And it would have been like a year or two ago.
I think that it's important to note that Tesla is not a perfect company. And even though we are...
What?
Even though we're fans of Tesla, I think that we're all willing to admit that this is something that they definitely botched. They didn't handle very correctly. They didn't initially implement, obviously, the eMMC that well, and it's something that a lot of owners have spent a lot of money having to get fixed. We're lucky that we do have NHTSA and regulations for all the crap that we give them.
And, you know, it would have been nice if Tesla had dealt with this earlier, because then as owners had brought their cars in for other things, like changing out the tires, they could have just dealt with it then. It would have been less of an inconvenience for owners, and they probably wouldn't have even noticed it.
Right. Instead, you have a bunch of early adopters in Tesla who were massive fans who got burned by Tesla. These are not the people that you want to be pissing off. These people spent over $100,000 to buy either a Model S or Model X, and it's really sad that it took this long for this problem to be addressed. And even going forward, it seems like it's going to be a long rollout of recall repair work.
Yeah. And we got another email, and look at this. We're going to be getting Starlink.
Woo!
We're at the right latitude finally.
Oh, I can't wait to try it out.
Yeah, so I guess when Elon tweeted earlier this week, watch Falcon 9 launch 60 Starlink satellites, he meant those are for us.
Yeah, I mean, we'll probably be using those satellites to maybe even upload the show. How cool.
Yeah, and then Elon went on to tweet, this was a tough one, referring to Falcon 9 re-landing on the Of Course I Still Love You drone ship. And he said it was because of high seas and wind.
Yeah, important to keep in mind that when you're seeing the spaceship land, it is landing on an autonomous barge in the middle of the ocean. I think that a lot of people miss that point, but it's yet another thing that SpaceX has been working on.
So I checked our tracking on FedEx, and it says that Starlink is coming next Friday. I think we should hop in the car and go camping and see if you can camp with Starlink.
It's February.
So what?
We're in Massachusetts. It's so cold.
We've been in the ice hotel. We can deal with it. Ugh. Come on. It's nothing compared to that.
At least we are going to have high-speed internet.
All right. So Consumer Reports released the results of a new survey last Thursday, and it named the Tesla Model 3 the most satisfying car on the market.
The Model S followed in the number 3 spot, and the Model Y in the number 4 spot, and Model X in 10th place. So is this out of like all Teslas or out of all electric cars or something?
No, this is out of 27 brands of vehicle. So it's interesting to note that not only all 4 Tesla's offerings made it into the top 10, but that no other EV model from any other manufacturer made it onto the top 10 list. So Tesla took the top spot of 27 brands in the survey.
So what was this survey? How does it work?
So Consumer Reports asked their members every year in their annual auto survey a bunch of questions, like whether they'd buy the same car again if they were given the chance, or questions about their satisfaction with specific aspects of their ownership experience, like comfort, driving, and ease of use of the electronics. Senior Director of Auto Testing at Consumer Reports, Jake Fisher, says, "You want to know how owners like living with the car and how they feel about qualities and features after the initial excitement of a new car wears off." So basically, this is information that owners who have owned a car from 1 to 3 years give so that they can see, like, okay, well, I've had it for a year and I don't really care about it anymore. Yeah, but I mean, check out that list. I mean, that is amazing.
Okay, but like what brands are we talking about in this survey? You said 27 brands. Which brands?
Like Kia, Mazda, Lincoln, Toyota, Jeep.
Oh, so just all car brands.
All car brands.
Wow. Okay. So, I mean, we knew which ones are the most satisfying. Which ones were the least satisfying?
Here are the least satisfying models.
Interesting. And there hasn't been much chatter about about all Teslas being in the top 10 most satisfying cars in the world. But what if one of them was in the least category, like in the 10 least satisfying cars? Don't you think that would be just breaking news for like a month?
Well, what I think is interesting is that Consumer Reports, when left to their own devices, has a lot of things to say about Tesla. But when it's in the hands of the owners, the actual people who own the cars, they're in the top 10 list.
Right.
Which kind of shows that maybe the people at Consumer Reports don't fully understand the car that they're reviewing.
And I think that that's the thing with Teslas, is that if you're a car reviewer, maybe you can get a car for a week, pretty much fully understand it, and then give your thoughts. With a Tesla, I would say you need like maybe a month and a half and a road trip. I mean, last week we talked about how Sandy Munro was on a road trip, and it's really, you can see it has changed his perception of the Tesla because he's never gone for a long distance road trip with autopilot and everything like that.
Right.
That is the transformation that needs to happen for most reviewers. Even someone like Sandy, who's impressed by the technology. I mean, he ripped the car apart, for goodness sake. Didn't fully appreciate autopilot until he's traveling thousands of miles a day.
And while we've got you, if you wouldn't mind hitting the like button, the YouTube algorithm really likes it when the button is hit early in the video. It's made a big difference on our past couple of videos. We really appreciate it, and it helps share this video with a lot more people.
So if you would, it would really help us out. Just hit the like button. That's all you have to do.
So speaking of Sandy Munro released a video last week of an interview he had with Elon at Boca Chica. During that interview, Elon said that the refreshed Model S and X will no longer have a lead-acid 12-volt battery.
Instead, it will be replaced with a 12-volt lithium-ion battery. And Elon said that he'd like to leave the 12-volt standard behind and move to something with a little bit more punch, like 48 volts.
And I think when a lot of people hear that, they're like, 48 volts, now we're getting into dangerous territory. But as he pointed out, the conference telephone on the desk there was a 48-volt telephone. Like, that's all around you all the time. And I think we should just explain how we got to where we're at, where there's a big lead-acid 12-volt battery sitting in almost every car.
You might remember like Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. They have to like go out in front of the car with a big like lever and like you'd have to do that by hand. People didn't like doing that, so having an electric starter in a car was kind of nice. It's the same thing with the lawnmower. If you can get an electric start lawnmower, it's very fancy. Usually they only do it for snowblowers or whatever. So how do you accomplish that? Well, you need a battery. And back in the turn of the century, batteries were pretty hard to come by, especially rechargeable ones. So along comes the lead-acid battery. Great. You have a rechargeable battery. It can provide high amperage, which is great because you can't get that much voltage because for each cell, which is very big and heavy, you can get up to about 12 volts. If you wanted more than that, you need a bigger, heavier battery. So let's not futz around with that. We'll just rely on high amperage for the starter motor, which then turns over the engine, and away we go. And while you're at it, oh, great, we can put in some headlights and some brake lights. How nice.
The problem with 12 volts, though, is it doesn't push much. So you got this really weak battery in your car, and if you have something like a super cold day and the voltage drops, then you don't have enough power to crank your engine. And the other weird thing is now we're talking about EVs. We don't need to crank anything.
Exactly, and that's why the lithium-ion battery in the Model S is going to make so much sense, because it's going to be the same lithium-ion battery technology that's in the floorboards of the car, except now it's in a little 12-volt configuration. Another advantage of switching to 48 volts is that you'd no longer need such thick cables. I mean, if you've ever carried like a 12-foot jumper cable before, you're like, this is heavy. Why? Because you only have 12 volts going through it, which means that the amperage needs to go higher to get a certain amount of wattage. And that's why when you plug in an extension cord and you plug in even like a hairdryer, it's not that thick a cable because the amperage is much lower because the voltage is higher. So I think that in the future, Elon is probably going to want to switch to a 48 volt pack. It's going to be pretty easy. All they have to do is just add a couple more cells or change the configuration.
Yeah, and it's lighter and saves weight.
Now, Amazon had announced 100,000 electric vans on the road by 2030.
Now, Amazon has announced that what we had reported on recently is actually for real. The first electric vans are actually testing real deliveries in Los Angeles.
Amazon says that they'll have 10,000 of the new electric vans on the road before the end of 2022.
And of course, these vans are powered by Rivian powertrains. Now, what I think is interesting here is that these have about 150 miles of range. And my guess is that what they're testing now is to see whether that 150 miles is enough. You don't want to put too much in there that you don't need, because then you're just carrying around extra batteries. But if you don't have enough to do your run every day, then you're in trouble.
And the complicating part here is that Amazon isn't like the mail, where you're like, well, first I go to Todd's house, then I go to John's house. Then, you're not just driving down the road delivering mail, you're delivering packages. And someday someone's going to get a giant, e-bike in the mail. And another day they're just, going to get this little thing. And most of the time they're not going to get anything, which I think would complicate the delivery.
And what also complicates it is weather. I mean, if you're delivering in LA with nice temperatures, that's one thing. But once you go into like upper Michigan or something, you're going to have range loss. So are these vans going to be differently configured when they're in different parts of the world and country?
I think that would actually be kind of smart. It'd be the one time where that would make sense. Obviously, selling consumer vehicles doesn't work because maybe I'm moving to Maine, maybe I'm moving to New Mexico. You never know. But with a van where you know it's going to live in a particular state, yeah, put the bigger battery packs up in Michigan and Maine and New Hampshire.
All right, so what is this I heard about last week? Elon was in a clubhouse. Is this like his treehouse that he built or something?
No. Clubhouse is an app. It's this new app. It's very exciting, mostly because Elon got on there. It's just a talking app where lots of people can listen in to a particular conversation between people. So it's kind of like a live podcast. You could think of it like that. And it was pretty cool. I mean, Elon was talking about rockets, his inspiration from The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, that basically he was depressed when he was in his formative years, and that book really helped motivate him to want to expand consciousness, to start asking the right questions about the universe, which I loved. I hadn't heard that before.
We're actually going to be talking more about Hitchhiker's Guide in the Patreon bonus story.
Yeah.
So stay tuned for that. Yeah, it was interesting to hear this conversation because he wasn't saying the normal stuff about that we've heard, that of course we want to go to Mars, blah, blah. He was talking about how hard it's going to be to live on Mars.
And he was talking about memes. He was talking about Dune.
And wasn't he talking about monkeys?
Yeah. Monkeys who can play video games with their mind.
What?
Apparently, Neuralink has a monkey with a chip in its brain, and it can play video games with its brain.
Already? We just saw them with pigs.
Right. We saw them with pigs. Now, apparently, they're working on monkey brains.
So did Elon have anything to say about that? Like, are we going to see this?
He said that there's going to be updates in the future. So we'll just have to keep our eyes and ears open for new info on that. Because, the pig thing was like a couple months ago.
Yeah, old news.
But I thought that it was going to be like a year or so before we got another announcement. But they're already working on monkeys.
Wow.
Okay.
And then Elon became a journalist?
Kind of. Vlad Tenev, the CEO of Robinhood, joined the call, which is cool because this isn't like something that you'd normally see on the news. And Elon started grilling him as to why Robinhood stopped trading GameStop.
There's so much cool stuff in this Clubhouse talk. I think we should wait for a Patreon bonus story and really dive deep on it.
Yeah, because otherwise the news would just drag and drag and drag. So we'll move on.
All right, so it looks like Giga Berlin is making great progress. Elon tweeted out Giga Berlin progress, and take a look at this video. That's looking like a real legit factory.
It's looking like a huge factory. And he said that it will be filled with graffiti art.
Not only is it going to be filled with art, it appears it's going to be filled with robots. KUKA robots have been spotted being delivered in Berlin. And now on the German Tesla website, it says that the Model Y production is expected to start middle of 2021, which is what we've been thinking, July. But now it actually says it on their website.
And it's pretty amazing because we went from a tree plantation of a bunch of pine trees, and then it went to a field, and now it's a factory.
Yeah.
In the span of just like, it'd make your head spin.
Yeah.
And so you might have heard by now that SpaceX tested SN9, the Starship serial number 9, back on Tuesday, February 2nd. The launch and the belly flop went without a hitch, but again, the rocket slammed down onto the landing pad and exploded. Now the question becomes what caused the failure? And basically it was due to one of the Raptor engines not relighting when it did its flip and potential land. You can see it here sputtering while the other one is lit successfully.
Now, didn't Elon say something like, we did something dumb here? What is the dumb thing he did?
Right. They tried to relight 2 of the rocket engines when they have 3 rocket engines. So he's saying that basically you'd try to launch all 3 and then you'd shut off one, or you'd at least know which one would, start successfully, light both of them, and then land successfully, hopefully.
You brought up a good point, which is why wait till the last second to do the turning maneuver? Why not do that higher up? Because
Right.
it just seems like if I'm thinking about being a passenger on one of these, I feel like I don't want to wait till the last second to see if something's going to go wrong. I'd rather have more time to relight that engine.
Either relight the engine or eject or something. I mean, I understand why you want to do the belly flop. You're coming in through the atmosphere. You want to have as much surface area as possible, slowing you down and reducing the temperature of the spacecraft. That makes total sense. Once you've kind of entered the atmosphere and you're now falling at terminal velocity, I understand that the terminal velocity of belly flopping versus a standing pencil dive is different, but the delta V, to me, which is basically the amount of rocket fuel that you're going to need to land, I mean, is it going to make much of a difference if I switch to a pencil dive like 3 or 4 kilometers higher? I don't know.
And then another thing is, I think a lot of people are like, why'd you do this test? It's the same as what happened last time. Didn't you learn anything? But it's different what happened this time.
Right. So on serial number 8, both engines actually lit successfully, but there wasn't enough pressure in the header tanks, so there wasn't enough fuel going through the engines, and that's why one of the engines was burning green, because it was actually burning the engine itself because there wasn't enough fuel, and so you had liquid oxygen flying through there and not enough fuel burning. Burns the engine. In this case, we don't know exactly why this engine didn't start. It could have been anything from like a bubble in the fuel line to a number of different things, but it was a different fail state, which just sort of resulted in a very similar looking explosion.
And now, isn't the FAA upset about this?
Yeah, the FAA is upset at SpaceX for exploding 2 rockets. It's unclear, though, what SpaceX did exactly to violate the test license. So we might be expecting a little battle with the FAA, although my guess is that things are going to smooth over and that, publicly we're not going to hear too much more back and forth, depending on Elon's Twitter.
I mean, this was a test flight, and with rockets that things blow up. That's historically what happens when rockets don't go well.
It's kind of weird, like, if it had landed, would the FAA still be mad, or would they be like, oh, good job, SpaceX, we are always here to support space companies? I'm guessing that someone maybe got a little too big for their britches, but SpaceX is an unstoppable force at this point, both engineering-wise, but also politically. I don't think a lot of people are going like, they shouldn't be allowed to test their space things.
That's only for nuclear weapons tests. Speaking of SpaceX, do you want to be an astronaut?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Well, Inspiration 4 is going to be selecting their crew in 20 days to go up in a SpaceX Crew Dragon.
Okay. How do I sign up?
You want to hear more? Okay,
Yeah.
so SpaceX tweeted this out, announcing the first commercial astronaut mission to orbit Earth aboard Dragon. And here's how you can join us. You head on over to Inspiration 4's website. You are going to have as your captain, Jared Isaacman. He's the Shift for Payments CEO. So, of course, since he's paid for that seat, he is going to be your captain. But there's 3 other seats, and 2 of them are still available. You can either fly in the Generosity seat or the Prosperity seat. So if you want to be in the Generosity seat, you donate to St. Jude's, and that gets you on the potential list. Or if you want to be in the Prosperity seat, you start your own Shift for Shop store and raise money for good things, and that puts you on that seat list. And then in 20 days, they're going to pick the 2 crew members.
Okay, and so what are they doing? They're going to Mars? They're going to the moon?
I think they're just orbiting Earth.
Okay. I mean, that's still fun.
Yeah, I mean, It's a good first step. If you want to go to Mars or the moon, it's a good, good to put that on your resume and be like, I've taken the first flight on Crew Dragon.
And I'm good at Microsoft Word. So Tesla is rolling back out an option that had previously been discontinued.
The sunroof?
No, that would be fun, though. Enhanced autopilot.
No, all of Tesla's cars come with autopilot standard.
No. Enhanced autopilot.
What's that again?
So this is autopilot that includes navigate on autopilot, auto lane change, auto park, and summon.
Oh, right. Now, why are they bringing that back?
Well, they're only bringing it back to Europe and China.
Why?
Well, the only other way to get those features right now is to pay for full self-driving, which has steeply increased in price. It went from about $5,000 up to $10,000. And if you're living in Europe, there's a good chance that even if Tesla rolls out full self-driving,
Right.
you probably won't have access to it because of regulations. Whereas in the United States, there's a good chance that we would actually have access to it. My guess here is that Tesla knows that the take rate has plummeted.
Yeah, I mean, Elon said in China it's down around 1 or 2%.
Exactly. And by take rate, we mean how many people want to pay for full self-driving. So since the price went up, fewer people want to buy it. But Tesla still has some things that they can actually really dangle in front of you, which are, navigate on autopilot, lane change, auto park, and summon. So put those into a package, hold the full self-driving, and this, I think, is nice because it makes this median step where people can pay for the enhanced autopilot, and then maybe when full self-driving becomes available in their area, they can say, okay, I'm going to pony up whatever money it is at that time to pay for it. And maybe they even get the money that they paid for enhanced autopilot taken off of the full self-driving package.
So how much is the enhanced autopilot package?
It's $4,500.
Oh, okay. So way less than the $10,000 full self-driving. Yeah. And you're only missing a couple features like stop at stoplights and auto steer on public roads, on back roads.
Right. And that one isn't even out yet.
Right.
So, I mean,
you're not even missing out on much, and you're getting it almost like more than half off.
Right. But the question is, are you going to be kicking yourself when you could have bought full self-driving at $10,000 and now it's moved up to $15,000? So you would have paid more even if you're getting money off from the enhanced autopilot.
It's the age-old question. Do you believe Elon?
Right.
We should make a t-shirt.
We have one. Believe Elon.
But we got to have another one.
Do you believe in Elon?
Tesla Time News is sponsored by Cybertruck Owners Club. There you'll find a crowdsourced reservation tracker where you can update and find your place in line.
And check out their website for Cybertruck news, discussions, and community for Cybertruck enthusiasts and future owners. And they have a 3D configurator allowing you to visualize the Cybertruck in any color, wrap, and logo, both on screen and in augmented reality.
All right, Jesse, this is the list.
This is the list.
Yeah, there's so many lists bandied about, so many stats of people like, well, Tesla didn't sell as many as Porsche did in the fourth quarter if you look at luxury cars under certain... blah, blah.
Here is the list. This is the only list that I think pretty much we should care about here.
Yeah, this is global EV sales in 2020, and this is the top 20 we're looking at here. And check this out, Jesse. What's number one?
The Tesla Model 3.
Yeah, 365,000 units sold in 2020, and that's 12% of the market. One car, 12% of the EV market.
The global EV market.
And I'm counting PHEVs here, too. I'm counting those as well.
And I was actually a little bit surprised about this because I thought that PHEVs were going to be selling really, really well.
Yeah, there's none in the top 10.
I couldn't believe this list. I was like, well, clearly we can't look at this list because the Prius plug-in hybrid sucks. Their sales suck.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that, the Prius, just regular old hybrid, doesn't have a lot of sales, but it's not a plug-in hybrid.
Right.
You can only put gasoline in it.
Right.
So it doesn't obviously count on this list at all. And I would argue PHEVs shouldn't be on the list anyway. Let's take a look at the second.
Yeah, the second one, normally we only talk about in reference to China because it's a big seller in China, but it's so big a seller that it actually made it to number 2 on the worldwide list. This is the Wuling Hongguang Mini EV, which sells for like $5,000. So normally we don't even want to count it, but it is a car and it is an EV and it did sell over 100,000 units.
And it doesn't have anywhere close the specs of the Model 3. But I think that it's actually really important, something that we should be sticking in the back of our mind. It's a micro-mobility kind of thing. I'm not saying it's a particular category, but it is a category of much smaller, much cheaper, much lower speed, much lower range kind of cars. I think that it's going to be a successful category going forward.
Yeah, it does the trick for a lot of people. And just going down the list, you see the Renault Zoe, you see the Tesla Model Y, the Kona, the ID3, the Nissan Leaf, the e-tron, the Baojun E-Series, and then you get into the Black Cat. What's that?
It's another Chinese EV. Again, lower stats, lower range, but pretty respectable in my opinion.
And let's look at the big picture here. There were 64 million cars sold globally last year in 2020. 3.1 million of those were EVs. So if you do the math, that's 4.88% of EV sales globally. 4.8%. We're not talking the measly like 0.5% or 1% like when we started the show. We're up to the 4.88. That means that we're on the S-curve, baby.
Exactly. I think that a lot of people want to look at one data point and they say 4.88%, that's small. Okay, but that's not the whole story. There are other data points. If you were to track the percentage of EVs in total car sales, it's not just like going up steadily. It's going up exponentially. And so next year, I think it's fair to say that maybe even just with Tesla, we're going to see a huge uptick in the amount of EVs sold.
Yeah, if you think of the S-curve for things like refrigerators or cell phones, when you got to 4.88% of the people had a refrigerator, that meant that the next year, a whole lot more were going to have a refrigerator. It didn't just sit at 4.8%. It was on its way to being, well, why do they have a refrigerator and we don't, honey?
Yeah, we'll get an HD TV next year. Now, I think that the list is the most important thing to look at. I know that it's also nice to look at it, sales in particular countries, but the list is the list. I think that you should share it with your friends. If for people who don't fully understand that Tesla is the leader and they think that, the competition is coming for Tesla, share them the clip. So head over to the Now You Know Clips channel. We have this clip right there. You can just send that little bit to your friends, shut them up so they can stop being like, well, the competition's coming. It's not.
So Indonesia has been signaling lately that they would be open to companies who would build mining infrastructure in their country to extract and process nickel for batteries.
Septane Haryoseto, Indonesia's deputy head for investments and mining coordination, reports that Tesla made an offer last Friday.
I received their proposal yesterday morning. Next week, we will meet them virtually to get an official explanation. If they only want to buy raw materials, we are not interested. This proposal is beyond just taking the raw material. So basically, it looks like Tesla is making an offer to go to Indonesia, mine and process nickel. Because remember, at Battery Day, Elon said, we need nickel.
Right.
And they found it. And Indonesia's like, hey, if you want to come here and actually put people to work instead of just having us export it to you,
right.
Then come on in.
I think that this could be a great move for Tesla and very smart for Indonesia, I think, to mandate that this is the way that they want it done.
So we've reported previously on San Bernardino's plan to connect the Ontario International Airport to Rancho Cucamonga's Metrolink station.
No, wait, isn't Ontario like in Canada?
There's another Ontario.
Oh, there's a Californian Ontario? Okay.
Although I don't know if there's another Rancho Cucamonga.
Let us know in the comments below. Now, the Boring Company is one of the possible contractors who is going to do that connection.
Yeah, and now the San Bernardino County Transportation Authority, the SBCTA board, has voted to give the green light for Ontario Loop negotiations to begin with the Boring Company for the nearly 4-mile tunnel that has an expected cost of $85 million, which, by the way, is a fraction of the other light rail solutions that have been offered.
And the Boring Company was the only company to submit an RFQ. Now, what is an RFQ?
It is a request for quotation. And basically, that's when you ask a bunch of companies to give you a bid on something. And I guess all the other companies are like, we're not going to be able to compete with them, so forget it.
So now it's just Boring Company.
Yep.
This is really exciting because we're hearing about a lot of different places that are interested in having the Boring Company come out.
This is really exciting because as Boring Company finishes up Las Vegas, I think a lot of other places in the world are like, oh, this is legit. This isn't just like one of Elon's crazy ideas. And then if they can do this over in Rancho Cucamonga, then they're going to have the reputation of being able to pull off really cheap transportation solutions.
And this is exactly what cities need. It's essentially a teleportation device because you don't have to knock down a bunch of people's homes. Like, sorry, we got to put in a highway bypass. You don't have to do any of that because it's going underneath all of them. And it's extraordinarily cheap and it's going to be fast. I'm very excited to see how it works in Las Vegas. I think it's a great test case.
And it's going to be electric because it's going to be autonomous vehicles.
Exactly. And when all of these cities are coming up on their 2030 deadlines of like, we're going to be fully green and carbon neutral. And they're like, we haven't even gotten close. I think that this is going to be one of their plays that the Boring Company could say, hey, we see that you're nowhere close to your goal that you set back in 2021 of being carbon neutral in 2030. Maybe you should have some electric transportation, huh?
All right, it's time for Tesla to show off the GigaPress.
GigaPress! Yeah!
Is that me modeling for that shirt?
No, it's me, actually.
So first, this video released on Tesla's Twitter account of the 2 Fremont Gigapresses. Check this out.
And Elon has said that this reduces 70 parts down to 1. And he said that the rear casting machine has eliminated 300 robots.
And I just want to stop right there, okay? Because I think this might get glossed over. I did a little back of the napkin math, and I'm not saying I'm right. In fact, in the comments below, if you know about robots, please correct me. But I'm assuming that in a automotive factory, at each of those workstations, there's an average of probably about 10 robots per workstation. You know, the ones that are doing spot welding and stuff like that. And I'm assuming there's about a 15 by 15 foot area, so 225 square feet per station. So if you do the math, 300 robots, that would be 6,750 square feet eliminated because you don't need all those robots anymore. And if each robot costs an average of $117,000, that would be $35 million per line that you don't need those 300 robots for.
Right. Now, we don't know if the 300 robots all came off of one line or if it's off of multiple lines, you know, maybe 2 or maybe 3. But, I mean, that's an astounding number and is really going to reduce Tesla's CapEx, but also the speed at which they can make the vehicles, which is super important.
Then a second thing is, when you can do the front end of the vehicle with one press, you're going to eliminate another 300 robots, which is what Elon told Sandy. And then I was thinking about this. Elon was talking to Sandy about how your tolerances, when you have 70 different parts, you have to kind of multiply the worst case out of all of them, right? If this is off by 0.2 millimeters and that's off by 0.3, when you're done, you have 2 different pieces that aren't exactly the same, which means your fit and finish isn't that great. But when you press them, each one is identical. So as they go to full body casting, each of those pieces is going to be perfect.
So it's kind of like thinking about making a big Lego thing, and then you know how you can kind of squish Legos a little bit and they go like, and you can kind of twist them around. That's kind of like the 70 parts. Having one big Lego, you know, imagine if you could just buy a Lego set and it just had one Lego. It was the castle or whatever.
Can you imagine the kid who gets that on Christmas? It's like, Mom, there's nothing to put together.
And he's like, well, Timmy, it's actually better engineering.
And then a couple of days later, Tesla released this video of the Gigapresses in Shanghai.
And this is amazing. Keep in mind, no other car manufacturer does anything like this.
And just a few months ago, nobody ever did anything like this.
Exactly.
I mean, so Tesla unveiled it, and then they just started repeating it at their factories.
I mean, we've seen this at Fremont, Giga Texas, Giga Shanghai. I'm pretty sure we've seen one at Giga Berlin, or at least it's going to be going there. It's going to revolutionize the way that the Model Y gets made, and probably also the Model 3 at some point.
So let's go to some charging news. California's Department of Transportation, or Caltrans, has announced that they are building out 9 level 3 fast charging locations, which is 22 chargers in all, in the middle of the state. And get this, they will be free to use, no time limit.
Is that really going to work?
Yeah, it might be a bad idea, actually, because I did the math. If you have 9 locations and 22 chargers, that means most of the locations are going to have like 2 chargers. And if someone pulls in there and is like, hey, honey, let's go see a movie, then they might be there for hours.
But the good news is that most of these stations are going to be in rest stops, so you can't really go see a movie in a rest stop. Unless you're in Tesla, because then you got Netflix in the car.
Hey, buddy, would you stop watching Netflix so I can charge?
But still, only 22 chargers for this whole state of California. I think that they're pretty lucky that Tesla superchargers exist.
All right, but Tennessee will be doubling their existing fast charging network from 24 today to 50 by 2024.
I'm sorry, doubling 24 to 50 by 2024? That's in 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
That's an average of like less than 10 per year?
Yeah.
Are they only assigning this to one guy?
Frank! Well, are you busy today?
Well, I was gonna do.
Okay. No, stop that. Stop. You're in charge of EV charging in Tennessee.
Okay. Is anyone else gonna help me?
No, just you, Frank. What, you can't handle it?
Okay. All right. Okay. I'll go get my shovels. It seems a little slow to me, but good for Tennessee for expanding.
Yeah, it's going to be 1 every 50 miles on major routes and highways. And by the way, there's 11,000 EVs in Tennessee as of December of 2020. And then, not to be outdone, Tesla Shanghai, which we announced was building a supercharger factory back in August, has now finished that factory and unveiled it as completed and able to produce up to 10,000 superchargers per year.
Wow.
So let's just put the scale there. We've got California with 9, we got Tennessee with 24. We got Tesla in Shanghai, just one place, being able to make 10,000 stalls in a year. You can see who's taking this seriously and who's not. And that's what I'm kind of upset about, is that yes, we're all moving in the right direction, but we're not all moving at the right speed. And so when we hear about like, yeah, we're going to put in EV charging, that's great. But you have to do it fast enough to keep up with the demand. And as we know from talking about the S-curve of all the EVs that are being made, if we don't build out the infrastructure fast enough, all these EVs are going to have nowhere to charge.
Right. And I think that it would be great if you could really, really rely on it. Now, Tennessee is pretty good because 50 miles, that's pretty much the lowest range EV could make it between chargers. So even in my Leaf traveling highway speeds, I could probably make it from one to the next. That's great. It's all about capacity, though. If I show up and there's a line of 4 EVs waiting, my battery might die before I even get to plug in. Just sitting there, keeping it heated or cooled or whatever I'm doing.
Right.
You really, I'd have to park it, stop it, get out. Now I'm at a rest stop.
Well,
I don't really want to be there.
And that's, I think, the big problem. I think a lot of politicians are like, see, we did what you asked. We put it in this charging station. It's got 2 stalls. You go to a mall or something and there's a bazillion parking spaces. They figured out what you need to have for people. But when it comes to EV charging, it's like they think, well, we gave you what you asked for.
And again, it goes back to lack of experience. The people who are making the decisions generally aren't the ones who need the stuff, because the people who need it. So when Tesla knows that they need supercharging, they drive the cars, they understand what the cars are capable of, and they built their network to fit everything to do with Tesla.
Go to most gas stations. How many stalls do they have? Usually about 8 or 10.
And it doesn't even take that long to fill a gas car, right? It takes you like 5 minutes. Now we're talking about 20, 30 minutes. And yeah, the capacity just won't be there. So, I definitely applaud Tennessee. Tennessee's doing better than California. My hat's off to them. But again, we need more.
So it turns out the Queen of England, who controls the Crown Estate, holds the exclusive rights to lease the seabed around the British Isles.
Why? What? I'm sorry. What
I know.
year was this? Hang on.
I know. I thought I was reading something from the 1800s too. Recently, an auction was held to lease these sites to wind farms. 2 of these sites in the Irish Sea were especially in demand, receiving winning bids of £200 million per year each. Now, the leases are for 10 years, so this means that the Queen and the UK Treasury will be receiving £4 billion over the next decade. Now, I know you might be saying, "Hear, hear for the Queen!" But wait, first of all, this was just 2 sites. There are many other sites that we haven't gotten the details on yet. This is essentially a tax on renewables. So at a time when we need to be shifting to green energy to save the planet, why should the Crown and the UK government be profiting? Now, you might be saying, well, they can't give the seabed away for free, and sure, but then do as Green Party co-leader Jonathan Bartley says, and rather than being squirreled away in treasury coffers, how much better would it be to use this renewable windfall as initial capital for a sovereign wealth fund that could then be invested for future generations, similar to what we've seen the likes of Alaska and Norway do in the past with their oil wealth?
I know that I'm an American, and we fought to get away from a monarchy. So the monarchy still controls the rights to the seabed around England. Why? When did that happen? Because the king back in 15 whatever probably wasn't like, and I control the seabeds as well, you peasants.
You're right. It actually is a very recent thing. In 2004, Tony Blair's government passed the Energy Act, in which the monarchy was given renewable energy exploitation rights to the seabeds.
Why the monarchy?
Why not?
I don't know. Why wouldn't you put it in like a fund or like a trust, like some kind of a government thing where they're like, and then we're going to lease it out. The government will lease it out, and all the proceeds will go towards tax revenues.
Well, that sounds very rational,
right? So, but
this is a country that has still a monarchy.
So they gave the rights to the seabeds to the monarch.
Yep, and then the UK Treasury collects the money and gives 25% of it back to the Crown Estate. Now, it was 15% up until 2017, but then it was increased. You know why?
No.
Because Buckingham Palace needed extensive renovations.
Okay. So this was just... I know that I'm an American.
That seems to be...
What the I'm sorry. Because you want to have a queen?
You're jealous, aren't you?
Not at all.
All right, so check out this electric bike, Jesse. This is Cake, the Swedish company. They are making the Kalk AP, or the anti-poaching version of their bike. And there's going to be 50 of these made. And when you buy one, they are going to give one for free to the Southern African Wildlife College to fight poaching of rhinoceroses.
How do the bikes fight poaching?
Well, Cake said, we are extremely excited about our partnership with the Southern African Wildlife College. Poaching has devastating consequences for wildlife all over the world. In many cases, it's the primary reason why many species face the risk of extinction in this day and age. Areas with widespread poaching are often large with little to no road for access. These areas are almost impossible to access via a car. In conjunction with the SAWC, Cake aims to provide our light, quiet, and clean motorbikes in an effort to increase efficiency in catching poachers and do so in a way that promotes sustainability.
So you're going to have a silent bike that you're going to put people on who are then going to go sneak up on and fight the poachers.
Right, because right now they actually do use motorcycles, but they have to use so much diesel fuel, which requires this whole supply chain just to get it to them. And then you know how loud a motorcycle can be. When you're riding to catch them, they can hear you from like 70 miles away. So they can pack up their camps and the poachers can, scurry off. But if you approach them with an electric bike, you can't hear them till it's too late.
And these can be charged with solar panels, so you can...
Oh, and that's the other thing I forgot to tell you. When you get one of these bikes and they donate one, they're also going to donate a solar charger.
Cool. Silent but deadly poacher assassins.
All right, it's time for Going Green.
And Going Green is brought to you by ecoware.us.
Check out my new shirt.
Check out my new shirt.
No, mine.
You can buy both of these shirts over on ecoware.us. And the cool part is that we carbon offset the manufacturing, the shipping, and the life cycle of your purchase. And we plant a tree for every order. And we help cap a well for every order.
No, the cool part is that you can get 15% off today only when you use this discount code, CAPAWELL.
And this also applies for you Europeans as well. So you'll be able to take advantage of it, even if you're waking up this Tuesday morning and watching the news early in the day. Just use the discount code CAPAWELL by the end of the day and get 15% off your total purchase.
This garbage truck is our green story. The Futurisome 26E electric garbage truck. Check out these specs. It's got a 170 kilowatt hour battery, although you can get bigger ones like the 255 or the 340 kilowatt hour battery for up to 380 kilometers or 236 miles of range. It has 500 kilowatts of motor output. It has one gear, so no shifting, I think that's probably the biggest pain when you're driving a diesel one. It's like,
Right.
22 or 44 kilowatts of onboard charging or up to 150 kilowatts of CCS. So you can charge this thing in 1.3 to 2.2 hours.
That's fantastic because, again, a garbage truck doesn't have to work all day.
But here's the best part.
What?
Check out this part of the video. Be quiet.
Die Ruhe vom Ganzen beim Arbeiten überträgt sich auf uns alle drei. Ich habe das Gefühl, wir sind viel weniger nervös oder gereizt. Mich dunkt, dass so strahlt die Ruhe auf uns rüber.
Hear what's going on? Wow. It's a quiet garbage truck.
And the other point is, too, the thing that really you hear with the garbage truck generally isn't even the engine, which is loud. It's usually the brakes. You're usually hearing... And then, they put the things in and then it's goes... You don't have either of this because the electric motor is taking care of both. With the regen charging, you don't have to be wearing out those brakes.
This is going to cause a lot of problems.
Exactly. You're not going to wake up and be
Exactly.
like, oh, the trash! Gotta take the brags out! Whew! Good thing I could hear that garbage truck.
Yep. Not going to happen anymore.
Well, you could still put a speaker on it and it could be playing.
But then you come out thinking that it's ice cream.
Well, then they could put lyrics.
If you want to get your trash taken out today, then you better take it out right now, or else we're gonna leave you and you're not gonna have your trash collected this whole week.
Here you go. Problem solved.
Thanks.
Yeah.
And thank you to Lars from the Tesla Owners Club of Tesla Drivers and Friends in Germany for sending us this story, because how else would we have heard about it? But, I just want to point out the part I really like about this story is that the driver of the truck, she said that now they can actually relax, like their tension is gone, because before it was they were shouting at each other, like, hey, hurry, make sure you don't forget that. And now they can just talk to each other.
I think that is going to make a big difference because, having to shout over loud equipment, it does raise your stress levels.
All right, it's time for Into the Future. How about this for a future story? The first flying car racing series.
Finally!
Finally, we get it!
Finally! It only took 21 years after we should have had flying cars.
21 years? It's supposed to happen back in the 50s. What are you talking about?
No, 2000 is like the cutoff for like the as late as it should have been.
All right.
2000, the year 2000? Hello? That's when we should have had flying cars. Taken 21 years.
In the year 2000.
So the world's first electric flying car racing series has been officially set to take place later this year. Now, they had set it for 2020. I don't know if COVID pushed it off, but it looks like it's going to be happening. And it looks like they'll be flying the Airspeeder Mark III, which has a 96 kilowatt electric powertrain. It weighs 220 pounds or 100 kilograms, and it can hit speeds of 75 miles an hour or 120 kilometers an hour. And the battery can fly for about 15 minutes.
I mean, these look really cool, but I don't see anyone in them.
Yeah, these are unmanned.
So then why are you calling them flying cars? This is just drone racing.
I know, right? There's a couple things about this that like are kind of weird to me. First of all, why would you want to fly at that angle of like if I was sitting in a flying car and all of a sudden I went like at a 30-degree angle, I'd be freaking out.
Well,
And-
you're not sitting in it.
No, well, I mean, but these are, I mean, they have a place for a person in it.
Yeah, but you're
Eventually-
not sitting in it.
But
What are you worried about? You're not sitting in it.
I know, but we're gonna be sitting in them.
Well, I mean, if it was helicopter racing, you'd have the same trouble.
Well, you wouldn't have this problem, which is the prop. Look at those props. Those are right where your face is like 6 inches from them.
Well, it's danger. It's racing. And plus, again, you're not sitting in it.
All right. Well, they'll be operated from the ground this year, but the Airspeeders have LiDAR and radar safety systems to avoid crashes. And I guess the whole point here, even though they're not autonomous and that kind of bummed me out, is that they're going to be learning from this so that they can make the MK4 for next year. So they just want to keep improving on what they're doing. Matt Pearson, the founder of Airspeeder and Aluda Aeronautics, said, "The world's first electric flying car races will be the most exciting and progressive motorsports on the planet." And Morgan Stanley has predicted that by the year 2040, eVTOLs, the whole market, will be worth about $1.5 trillion.
I think that makes total sense, but I don't know if racing flying cars is going to be a large chunk of that. I think it's mostly going to be delivery and transportation.
Yeah, they might have said that about the
Automobile back in the 1910s.
All right, it's time for sunspots. So Panasonic announced last week that it will stop making solar panels at its Malaysian and Japanese factories, completely exiting the solar panel and wafer market by March of 2022.
They will continue to sell Panasonic branded modules made by subcontractors.
Panasonic plans to sell off its Malaysian factory and just make inverters and other products at its Japanese factory. Now, you may be wondering what happened to Panasonic at Giga Buffalo.
Panasonic ended its manufacturing partnership with Tesla there just last year, and now Tesla uses Chinese-made solar cells in its glass roof.
And if you'd like to put solar on your roof, contact our friends over at EnergyPal. They're the team of energy experts that can help you get solar and battery in your house for less.
If you have questions, they have answers. Check out their link in the show notes below and let them know that Zach and Jesse sent you.
All right, it's time for our video contributor stories. And our friend Omer in Israel is reporting on the fact that Tesla is being serious now in Israel.
Hi Zach and Jesse, I'm Omer, an industrial and graphic designer from Tel Aviv, Israel. And I would like to share with you some great news. Tesla started selling 3 of its models in Israel. Moreover, Tesla made a move that will crush the local premium car market. And let me tell you why. After a very long time, since early rumors started to appear about Tesla entering the Israeli market, as well as knowing how complex the Israeli regulatory system is, it actually happened. And wow, Tesla surprised us all like only Tesla can and dropped a bombshell in terms of pricing. But before we get down to the actual numbers, it's important to notice that the Israeli state taxes for a new car results in an average of 83% of the total cost of the new car, one of the highest rates among Western countries. For comparison, in the US the federal taxes is much lower, which means that a Toyota Prius in the US starts at $25,000, while in Israel it will be the equivalent of $45,000, almost double the price. Tesla announced a base price for the Model 3 at around 220,000 Israeli shekels, equivalent to $67,000. Sounds a lot, right? Well, yes, compared with the US prices, but not compared with other premium cars. For example, the base model of the Mercedes C-Class starts at 295,000 shekels, a 74,000 shekels difference, the equivalent to $23,000. And the difference in price is not limited to the Model 3. The X and S models are relatively cheaper than their ICE as well as EV competitors. For example, the entry-level long-range Model X starts at 453,000 shekels, include taxes, compared with the starting price of 525,000 shekels for the Audi e-tron, and around 70k shekels difference. And the price gap even getting absurd, comparing the base Model X to the plug-in hybrid BMW X5 45e. The latter starts at 663,000 shekels. You'll do the math. So it's clear that Tesla taking the tiny Israeli car market seriously, with aggressive pricing supported by top-end technology and design. Speaking on design, I welcome you to check out my electric design channel. I recently imagined how the 25K Tesla Model 2 will look like, based on the Battery Day presentation, as well as many more Photoshop renderings and design reveals of future prototype electric cars, like the VW ID.1, Chevrolet electric pickup truck, the Hyundai Ioniq 5, Lucid Gravity, and much more electric car design content. And if you like, please subscribe. Thanks for everything you do. And now you know.
I think that's really interesting that Tesla's able to compete with all the luxury cars in Israel. I think that's a really smart market entrance.
80% tax?
That's insane.
What?
That's a lot.
What's the justification for that? Don't people need to get around in Israel?
I don't know. It's a small country too. I mean, the interesting thing is the Standard Range Plus in Israel.
Yeah, you just transit.
It'll get you from the tippity tip top part of Israel all the way down to the bottom.
Yeah, 80% tax.
That's amazing.
Man. All right, it's time for our Patreon bonus stories, and you know what to do. If you are one of our patrons, you can head on over to Patreon right now and watch. And if you're not yet, go sign up for as little as $1 a month. You can watch all of our bonus stories, and there's quite a few. We're back from the Patreon bonus stories. It's time for the Patreon shout-outs. Who do we got this week, Jess?
We've got Thomas Raddick,
Rick Van Dilleman,
Charles Walker,
Will Becker,
Robert Xavier Booth,
Katie Dog,
Kushik Cheetah,
Stephen Weiberg,
Jay Russell,
Isaias,
Sean Boosley,
Will Ryan,
Marquise Massenberg,
Greg E. Miller,
Dara Fian,
Elliot,
Lane G,
Tyler Thomas,
Andre Kingston,
and Daniel Lopez Uraib.
Thank you so much for supporting us. We can't do this show without you.
All right, it's time for Elon's tweets of the week. And Elon said, please consider working at Neuralink. Short-term, solve brain spine injuries. Long-term, human-AI symbiosis. Latter will be species-level important. Work at either our Bay Area or Austin locations. So, wow, you could do some pretty heavy-duty stuff, and I didn't know they had an Austin location. Elon said, feels weird helping make hopefully good version of cyberpunk come true. If you've worked on advanced wearables, phones, or robots, these skills are needed at Neuralink. And then Hamoon said, hi, Elon. I've been thinking for a long time how to write to you, but I'll keep it very simple. I was in a car accident 20 years ago and have been paralyzed from the shoulders ever since. I'm always available for clinical studies at Neuralink. Please get in touch. And Elon said, Neuralink is working super hard to ensure implant safety and is in close communication with the FDA. If things go well, we might be able to do initial human trials later this year.
Yeah. So just to keep in mind what's at stake. Yeah, there are people who currently can't use the function of all of their limbs. And this is something that Neuralink can do. So to the arguments of ethics, I will leave it to the ethicists, but I'm for the people who could potentially walk again.
Then Elon said on Tuesday, off Twitter for a while. So I guess that's the end of the tweets. Nothing. Oh, I'm sorry. On Thursday, he was back.
A while means 2 days.
Right. Wonder of Science says, the surface of Mars is seen by Curiosity rover with the sound of the Martian winds, captured by InSight lander.
Let's just watch and listen.
car sounds like.
That really changes it for me. I mean, I've seen this video before, but like to see and hear something, you're like,
It's a real place.
Oh, it's a real place.
And Elon said destiny. And then Elon tweeted out the second last kingdom. What's he talking about?
I think he's talking about his son's haircut, that he got like a Viking haircut. He doesn't look much like a Viking.
What a cutie.
Yeah.
And then Elon said, so it's finally come to this. And I want to point out that Elon has said he'd be taking a break from Twitter on Tuesday, but then he was right back on Thursday. And I think this tells us a lot about Elon's brain and how it works. For most of us, a break would be at least a couple weeks or maybe a month. For Elon, it was a day and a half, and that was his break.
All right, let's talk about the results of the poll. We asked, what do you think about the Model S and X refresh now that we've had a chance to settle down? And
What was the number one answer?
most people said that they like everything about it.
Nice.
Now, there were a couple of little nitpicks. Some people didn't like the steering wheel, and some people thought that they should have included the 4680 batteries. Other than that, people thought that maybe screens in the headrests and a HUD. But besides that, everyone was pretty happy.
And no one said they didn't like the changes made to the rear seats.
Right. Out of 700 people, no one didn't like everything.
All right, it's time for community mail time.
So our friend Mike just ordered his new Plaid Plus Model S, and he asked Tesla if it would have the 4680s. Well, Tesla got back to him and said, correct, the Plaid Plus will be our first offering with the 4680 cells.
So we were right.
Yeah, I don't think it was too big a leap, but
Still,
good to know that we are on track.
pretty smart guys.
Yeah.
And then our friend John from the UK says, after watching your 2.5 particles air pollution video on London Underground, I emailed them about braking, and their reply is below. They said, thank you for your feedback from the 29th of January asking about regenerative braking on tube trains. I've been advised by the fleet manager for the newer S stock trains on the Metropolitan, District, Circle, and Hammersmith and City lines that they have the capability to use both regenerative and friction braking. This will be the case with all the new stock, so we will be looking at moving over to regenerative braking in the future.
So this is pretty exciting. It shows that it really does make a difference when you write in or you tweet someone.
Oh, because remember what we did was we were in London and we measured PM 2.5 particles in the London Underground, and we were astonished to find how high the level was, which is really bad for your lungs.
Because they're electric trains, whereas all this pollution coming from, it was coming from the brakes.
Yeah.
They're using friction brakes on an electric train. I don't know why they were doing that, but it means that in a confined space, you have extraordinarily high levels of really bad PM 2.5 particles that you're breathing in.
Yeah. All right, then Kevin's Model Y got totaled, and it looks like this Dodge Ram got the worst of it. Kevin said his Model Y held up like a tank with very little cabin intrusion, but he said he has this problem. When he goes to get another car, he's worried that his insurance won't pay for FSD again. And so what we're wondering about is this a problem? Is it true that if your Tesla's totaled and you have to go get a new Tesla, and if you had car insurance, will the car insurance pay for the FSD that you already paid for, even though now it's probably more money? Like in Kevin's case, he paid like, I don't know, 5,000 or 6,000, and now it's 10. So if you're in the insurance industry, maybe you're an insurance broker or work at a big insurance company, please reach out to Zach at nowyouknowchannel.com, because we want to get to the bottom of this. We want to find out the answers.
Because I'm sure that if you're just basically saying that the car is worth an extra $10,000, you can cover that with just a slightly higher premium. And if people can have the option to do that, to cover their full self-driving, that would be something that they're going to want to do. So please get in touch with us, because maybe we can talk about your company that covers full self-driving.
All right, Bob, it's time to play Roll That Sign, sponsored by Tesla SentryCam, the only car that records all your memories, good, bad, and ugly.
Well, this is going to be a tough one, Bob.
That's right, Bob, because that minivan has to get that sign into that EV charging spot next to that Tesla.
And as we know, Bob, the rules are that you have to roll it without hitting any cars.
All right, here she goes, Bob. I don't know if she's going to have the momentum. Wait! This is amazing, Bob. I've never seen this kind of blind handling before.
It's almost like she doesn't know that she's pushing it. This is truly stunning, Bob.
And let's see how she finishes the competition.
Perfect, Bob. She just drives away and leaves it there like a champ.
That's right, Bob. She's going to get extra points for letting someone else deal with it.
The attitude of a champion, Bob. Wow. We just don't see enough of that anymore.
I couldn't agree more, Bob. She got the sign perfectly placed, effectively icing that EV charging spot, and then just drove off as if to say, who cares about charging anyway?
So yeah, that unfortunately isn't the only Tesla Cam callous footage that we have to show today.
All right, so this video is a little disturbing. So if you don't want to be disturbed or you have kids in the room, maybe don't watch this part.
But it's important to mention that no one was seriously injured. But yeah, we'll put the timestamp down below so you can skip, and we've given you plenty of time to do so, or just cover their eyes.
All right, so what just happened here?
What you saw was a person who jumped a curb, drove over a median, hit someone in a parking lot, and then drove away.
I mean, was this like a teenager doing a prank or something?
No. So both of the people involved in this accident were in their 80s. The victim was 88 years old. He is fine. He was rushed to the hospital in an ambulance. He didn't have any serious injuries. Just
And when did
cuts
this
and bruises.
when did this take place?
This happened the 31st of January down in Connecticut.
Okay.
And the driver of the car who hit the guy was 83 years old and
Like mistook the gas pedal for the brake, right?
Exactly. And fled the scene. Because the carriage hit the car, it activated Tesla SentryCam.
Oh, and then SentryCam records backwards in time because it's always recording.
It's always recording, and it basically just... Okay,
So yeah, I want to point this out. I mean, this was one of our viewers who sent us this footage. This is from a Tesla. And
his Tesla.
Right. And I mean, this is why we're seeing all this kind of stuff. That probably happens every day. It's just that now we have more and more cars recording it.
It would have been a who knows driver. We wouldn't have been able to tell had it not been for this footage. Now, the driver is in custody. But let's talk about this for a second. That was a roughly 10-year-old Camry. Should we
An
be
ICE car.
Yeah. Should we be calling NHTSA about unintended acceleration?
Yeah, because I mean, they
what the heck? Maybe they didn't mistake it. Maybe the car accelerated on its own.
That could have happened.
Right. I'm sure that the 83-year-old driving hit the proper pedal, Bob.
Right. I know.
To me, I don't know. It's this annoying thing where people who went after Tesla and wanted to bring it to NHTSA and were short selling the stock wanted to attack Tesla to say that the unintended acceleration was caused by Tesla itself.
I mean, I can think of some FUD to write up this headline for now.
Exactly.
Tesla involved in a hit and run. You know,
or I mean, it could go the other way. Camry involved in unintended acceleration, and then it drove the guy home.
Yeah, but what's a more sexy headline?
Right.
You know?
Exactly. It's just so frustrating, and it's frustrating that people are like this.
Yeah. Just stop.
I know.
Help
Just
the person.
make sure that he's okay. Like, this wasn't some like teenager who vaulted over the car or something. It's an old guy. He's just sitting there, laying there at the end. It's just so sad.
Yeah.
But
no, I mean, in both cases, both videos, you know, it's like I did something, but I'm not responsible for it. I'm going
Right.
to drive off.
Yeah.
All right, it's time for Supercharger reviews, and these are sponsored by our friends at EvanX, the Tesla community's accessory store. If you're looking for awesome accessories for your Tesla, then check out EvanX and use our discount code NowYouKnow to save you $10 on purchases over $100.
Lisbon, Connecticut, and we're at the Supercharger at Home Depot. We have Home Depot, Kohl's, Walmart, and Panera Bread. There's Rosa Coaster charging. Thanks, now you know.
Hey, Zach and Jesse. Hey, just want to let you know some great news. My name is Chris Largent from Vallejo, California. I do not own a Tesla yet. My wife and I are getting later this year, 2 Model 3s, but I just found here in Vallejo a brand new showroom and a service center. Super excited. Maybe this will be the place I pick up my new cars later this year. We have a supercharger, 20 stall supercharger station about a quarter mile away, and we have one up in Napa. We're really close to Napa, so just want to let you know, now you know.
Hello Zach, hello Jesse. This is Shamut on EVs reporting from Poznań, Poland. This is City Park, a central location, and one of the first superchargers in Poland, currently being expanded from 4 stalls to 6 stalls. These are brand new, just in, soon to be connected. Now you know.
This is Eric reporting from the Netherlands, and I'm on my way to Meerkerk, the newest supercharger edition here in the Netherlands. As you can see, the charging speed isn't great at the moment. It's about 53 kilowatts. I wonder what's going on because the rest of the stalls are empty. As you can see, I'm the only one here. So this is the newest supercharger in the Netherlands. It's well located, it's well equipped, it's clean, but the only thing that needs to be improved is the charging speed. So I give it a 7 out of 10. And now you know.
How's it going in the Fireball supercharging station? I believe the biggest supercharging solar array station in the world, if I'm not mistaken. Up here off of I-5 in California, it is super awesome. There it is, check it out. Woo, right over top. Even bigger than the Kettleman City one. There's my daughter running. We're doing a little Christmas trip in my adult full-on Christmas onesie. I'm gonna give it a solid 8 out of 10 because you got some sweet stuff right over here. Brand new stuff and all fast food. Not my favorite, but hey, nice spot because it gives you this cool second option to charge because you only have like one other station up north and it's all like 8 stalls, 10 stalls minimum or maximum, excuse me. So this is a huge option for the I-5ers cruising up California. Take it easy.
Awesome reviews. And don't forget to upload yours to our Now You Know website where we're going to put them on there and they'll be immediately available for people to see and you might make it onto the show. So what do we got for new superchargers this week?
We've got the 8-stall version 3 in Mariana, Florida.
We got the 16-stall version 3 in Vélizy, France.
The 8-stall version 3 in Land O'Lakes, Florida.
And number 2191 in the world, number 1 in Greece, is the 6-stall 150 kilowatt in Athens, Greece. Congratulations, Greece. Woo! You're on the map.
Yeah, you're on the map now, baby. It's time now for our Patreon giveaway.
Yeah. And this week, we're giving away a EcoWare t-shirt or hat of your choice to become a possible winner. Join us on Patreon. The more you support us, the more times you get your name in the bucket. I'm wearing my new matching One Truck to Rule Them All hat
to go with your shirt.
So you could pick this out if you want. Who's our winner?
The winner is Mitchell Smart.
All right, congratulations, Mitchell. You are the winner of our EcoWare giveaway. And remember that on EcoWare, we have a code KAPPAWELL, which you're seeing right here. That is good for 15% off everything in the store for the next 24 hours. So quickly go over there and get it. Also, we have free shipping on everything, and we carbon offset the production, the life cycle, the shipping of your product, and we plant a tree in addition to it, and we're capping a well. It's just so much carbon offsetting. It's amazing. And you get these cool new designs.
And the reason that we have the t-shirts, the reason that you're not just donating money is it gets the conversation started.
Yeah.
People are going to go, what's One Truck to Rule Them All?
What's a gigapress?
And you can have that conversation. It kicks off that conversation. It gets people thinking and changes people's minds. That is the most powerful thing in the world. So we wanted to enable you to do that by having something that is going to start a conversation.
Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for hitting the like button. That means so much to us. Thank you so much for subscribing. As our channel grows, we're able to do so much more. We're bringing you interviews with all sorts of cool people. We're going to be driving around all over the world in Teslas and showing them off to you, getting your butts in seats. That's all because of you. So thank you for being a part of it. We'll see you next week. Now you know.